Hello, my name is Bella Maciek, and for this presentation, I have chosen to research the Hopi Katsina dolls. I would first like to mention a common misconception, which is that they are called Kachina dolls. The Hopi people do not have the CH sound in their language, so that term is inaccurate. Kachina is often used as the universal term, but the correct term for dolls specifically made by the Hopi, Zuni, and other Pueblo tribes is Katsina, the plural version being Katsinam. So that is the term I will be using throughout the presentation. To summarize, Katsina dolls are figures mainly carved from cottonwood root to represent spiritual beings in Hopi religion and culture. Katsina dolls are made by the Hopi, who are Native Americans that mainly reside in northeastern Arizona. The Hopi Reservation in Arizona consists of 12 villages which encompass over 1.5 million acres. Although around 7,000 Hopi individuals live on the reservation, the total population of the Hopi tribe is around 15,000. The Hopi are organized into matrilineal clans, meaning that children are born into their mother's clan and are named by the women of their father's clan. This focus on women and girls is an important context for the Katsina dolls, as Hopi girls receive 2 Katsina dolls annually from the age of 1 to 10. Since the Katsinam are meant to represent the spirits of deities, animals, or even natural elements, they are essentially used as tools to teach children about these beings, which have the power to bring rain and control the natural world. They are even viewed as messengers between humans and the spirit world. In Hopi culture, it is believed that from the winter solstice to the summer solstice, these deities visit the villages in the form of Katsinas to bring rain for their harvest, provide gifts to the Hopi children, and celebrate with them through dance and song. The men of the village create the figures before each Katsina ceremony, which are then passed on to the daughters and later displayed on Pueblo walls to teach people about the characteristics of the Katsina. Education is a large purpose of the Katsinam. This tradition is centuries old, with the oldest known surviving doll dating back to the 1700s. Western traders first learned of the Katsinam in the mid-1800s and began collecting them, which led to the craftsmanship of the Katsinam slowly evolving and changing appearance as well as function. There are 4 distinct periods that Katsina dolls are categorized in, which show their evolution over time. The first is the early traditional period, from about 1850 to 1910, which are very simplistic carvings used with only one piece of cottonwood root. The figures were small, less than a foot tall, and not as smooth as in later periods because of limited tools. These Katsinam were very stiff, only vaguely resembled human proportions, and they were only meant to be hung on the walls. Next is the late traditional era from around 1910 to 1930, when the Katsinam started to look a little more realistic and proportional. The carving became more intricate as well as the painted designs. This leads us into the early action era from around 1930 to 1945, when the dolls evolved even further. The arms and heads became more defined and separate from the rest of the body, kind of positioned in more of an action pose. The dolls even started to be dressed in real clothing instead of just painted clothing. Then, in the late action era from 1945 to present day, the Katsinam dolls became how we see them today, as extremely detailed and extravagant, very realistic regalia, and expressing movement. There is a lot of variation in the appearance of Katsina dolls today. as there are over 200 different types based on the Katsinam or deity that is being replicated. There are two ways to create the eyes, either by painting them in various shapes or carving them out of wood and attaching them, which are called pop eyes. The mouths are either painted in a rectangular, triangular, or crescent shape, or they are carved into a horizontal mouth, a short snout, or a beak. Their head may be decorated with bird wings or feathers, horns, hair, or corn husk flowers, and the regalia on their body depends on gender. Male figures might wear a white shirt and a kilt, a ceremonial robe, red leggings, or a fox skin. Female figures might wear a ceremonial robe as a dress, an eagle feather skirt, or a black woolen dress with a red belt and white shawl with red and blue bands. Every color, as well as symbols or design, has a specific meaning in Hopi culture. For example, black represents nadir, which is like the underworld, and phallic symbols represent fertility. The Hopi Katsina dolls represent multiple course themes we've discussed. A prominent one is colonization. Like I mentioned before, in the late traditional era and early action era, which took place in the late 19th and early 20th century, the dolls began to evolve because European settlers created a large demand for these dolls to be bought and sold. And so they wanted them to be more elaborate and dynamic instead of the simple carvings used in Hopi religious ceremonies. They also represent the theme of survivance. In 1900, Charles Burton became the agent for the Hopi people and tried to prohibit them from participating in their religious practices. The Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, however, gave the Hopi people back their religious freedom, and they continued their Katsinam creations. The dolls are now a symbol of survivance against oppression, and they are still made today, preserving the Hopi's cultural identity, which is another theme. Every detail included in the Katsina is significant, as they represent their history, beliefs, and values. Learning about the Katsinam impacted my understanding of our course themes because it is a real-life example of how Indigenous culture, specifically art, has been impacted by colonization. However, it has also provided me with a clear example of how Indigenous people continue to not only maintain their cultural heritage, but share it with the world through the medium of art.